Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prajarine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Jai Om Shnipad Paramahansa Paripajacharya Stotra Satushi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Adanta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Thank you all very much for coming. We're reading from Chaitanya Caritamrta 154. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Pratirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadatmano mayam yatha paso yatha tamaha. What appears to be truth without me is certainly my illusory energy, for nothing can exist without me. It is like a reflection of a real light in the shadows. For in the light, there are neither shadows nor reflections. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Agrashatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savathutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kalpataruvyascha Kripa Sindhobhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Again, welcome to all. Welcome to Meenadasi. Welcome to all the devotees online in New Orleans and elsewhere. Again, a note about where we are in our reading of this Chaitanya Caritamrta. In this section, the author, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, has been talking about the different kinds of spiritual masters or gurus. He's talked about the spiritual master who gives initiation, the spiritual master who gives instruction, and Krishna, the spiritual master within the heart. And now here, in support of what he's been saying regarding Krishna's presence as the original spiritual master, Kaviraj Goswami has been quoting seed verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second canto. And Srila Prabhupada, in commenting on the verses, comments on the substance of the verses quoted. So he's not commenting on the argument that Kaviraj Goswami is making. He's just commenting on the text of each verse and the substance of those texts. That I have an unstable internet connection here. If at some point things freeze or get lost on the internet, someone can speak up and and we'll try to make up for the gap. So for this verse, we've read part way through the Srila Prabhupada's purport, his commentary. And now we're going to up again. When the material manifestation appears very wonderful, this is due to a perverted reflection of the supreme sunshine, the absolute truth, as confirmed in the Vedanta Sutras. In the absolute, as darkness is situated far away from the sun, so the material world is also far away from the spiritual world. The Vedic literature directs us not to be captivated by the dark regions, tamaha, but to try to reach the shining regions of the absolute, yogi tam. I'm not sure whether that's an editorial artifact, whether what's intended is Jyotirgama, but there you have it. The absolute truth has been defined. What do we mean, absolute truth? What's that? So the aphorism is, Janmad yasya yataha. Yataha means Janma Adi Asya, from whom creation and so forth proceed. Adi means and so forth. So creation, which implies destruction and maintenance, they all come from the absolute truth. Absolute means not dependent on anything else. The absolute truth is here defined as the source of everything. Where everything else is dependent, contingent on the absolute. They all come from him, they all rest on him, they all are ultimately dissolved by him. So the absolute is the origin of everything. Janmad yasya. And here it's said that the material, or it's not directly said, yes, it is said, that the material world is the inferior emanation, the inferior energy, the inferior projection of the absolute truth. There's a superior reality that is manifested by the absolute truth. That's the spiritual world. And there's an inferior, say, reflection of reality or shadow of reality, this material world. And Srila Prabhupada begins by saying that whatever we see that's amazing or impressive in this world is a reflection of that absolute truth. It appears to be true, or it appears to be in some way substantial or amazing because of reflected energy. Reflected energy. As darkness is situated far from the sun, the material world is far from the spiritual world. In the Bhagavatam, it's indicated that we're situated as if in a little corner. You can picture the vast, endless spiritual effulgence of the eternal spiritual sky. And in a portion of that sky is a cloud, a small cloud, and that small cloud is where we are. So the sun is present everywhere, but where there's a cloud, the sun is not directly seen, although the cloud itself is a product of the sun. Okay, we have a question or comment from Tulsi Priyadasi online.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my obeisances. So this reminds me of a question that I've long had about the spiritual world, where it says everything is self-effulgent and there's no need for extra illumination. But the material world is wrapped in darkness, but still there's some sort of enjoyment to be gotten from darkness. So I was wondering, is there ever any darkness for the sake of Leela or Krishna's enjoyment in the spiritual world, or is everything going on, whether it's,
Yes,
sensibly
in
day or
the
night?
spiritual world also.
I'm sorry?
I cut you off.
Oh, you were getting cut when you were speaking, so I didn't hear you.
I deserved it because I cut you off.
I'm not sure where you cut me off. I was just asking as if there's ever any darkness in the spiritual world for the sake of pastimes.
Yes, we hear that Krishna is performing his evening pastimes. So
Right.
there's darkness, but it's, as you mentioned, it's manifest for the sake of pastimes. Otherwise, here, the darkness is the natural state of things, and Srila Prabhupada will talk about that next. But in the spiritual world, everything is by nature bright, effulgent.
But the sun is a material planet, so even though by nature it's dark, we also have the sun, right? So
Yeah. And probably, well, let's read on, and
Okay.
your comments will be relevant.
Okay.
The spiritual world is brightly illuminated, but the material world is wrapped in darkness. In the material world, sunshine, moonshine, or different kinds of artificial light are required to dispel darkness, especially at night. For by nature, the material world is dark. Therefore, the Supreme Lord has arranged for sunshine and moonshine. But in his abode, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, there's no necessity for lighting by sunshine, moonshine, or electricity, because everything is self-effulgent. Natad pasyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka. That's the difference. The material world is constitutionally dark. We've got the sun. It's probably just about setting right now. When it's completely set, the sky is dark, apart from a few stars and moon, which gives some light. But the sky itself is dark. And everything around us will be dark, except that we've got electricity and artificial light or some fires burning somewhere. But take that away, it's dark by nature. But the spiritual world is just the opposite. It's bright by nature. Everything is luminous. Just a different kind of world. This world is the world of darkness. That world is the world of light. And when we see some light here, it's a reflection of the light there. A dim reflection of what's there. And as Prabhupada mentioned, the Vedas are urging us, tamasi ma, don't stay in the material darkness. Jyotir, come to the light. Yes, Tulsi Priya, you still have a question? Or is your hand just staying there?
I forgot to take my hand down, but I was typing a question in the chat. So I will read that and not post it. Okay, but the world is dark only when one side of the planet is turned away from the sun. Otherwise, isn't light everywhere in the universe? And space seems dark because there isn't a lot of reflection.
Only because the sun is there.
Sorry?
Only because the sun is there. Krishna hung this planet in the middle of things called the sun, and it provides light for an otherwise dark universe. If you subtract the sun, you'll have a dark universe.
Okay.
So Krishna provides the sun, moon, fire, some lightning.
So that's what's meant by nature. It's dark because it's not self-illuminating. It requires something to illuminate it.
Yeah, they have to. Krishna hangs some big lamps in the universe so that it will be lit.
Thank you.
Atina, was there a question on your side?
Hi, Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranams. Yes, I lowered it and I was going to type into the chat that this topic had sparked a question for me, but I didn't want to take it, I guess, a different direction, unless that's okay. But I don't know if, I think someone, Prabeen Prabhu, just typed a related question in.
Okay, let's see Prabeen's question. how day and night exist in the spiritual world without sun and moon. Do they have pastimes without reference to the sun and the moon? No, the sun and the moon are also referenced. Krishna's enjoying in the moonlight and so on. Here it's a necessity. You have to have the sun or everything's going to be dark, or the moon or something, otherwise darkness. There, it's, what would you say? Decoration or I don't want to say a stage prop, but an aid to Krishna's activities. When Krishna desires, then there's rain in the spiritual world when it's helpful for Krishna's pastimes. There's sun or moon when it will be helpful for Krishna's pastimes, but there's no need of it. Okay. Any questions from here? Yes.
I think a little bit before the correspondence, you mentioned something about whether or not there's pleasure or happiness in this material world. It seems like there is. But what goes under the guise of this so-called pleasure or happiness is what is called chapala sukha.
Yeah.
Temporary flickering sense gratification. Yes, you get some gratification in the senses, no doubt. But almost immediately it begins to fade, and at a certain point it's gone.
Yeah.
That's not the real state of the pleasure.
Right. It's there. That's the material world. Everything's there, but it doesn't last. And it's not even what it's made out to be to begin with. It's made out to be, the super great, and this will satisfy everyone's desires, and nothing could be better than this, and happily ever after. And then you find out that it's full of problems, disappointments, anxieties, and so on. And finally, it's gone. Any happiness in the material world will be gone, and the body through which we experience that happiness will be gone. We were on our walk yesterday. The sort of most accommodating place to walk was the Catholic cemetery down the street, which is a good place for those who are inclined to be philosophical, rather than walk through the French Quarter or something like that. You walk through this quarter, and it's quite, what shall we say, thought-provoking or sobering, that this is where everyone ends up. Not everyone. The soul is described in the Bhagavad Gita. It has no birth, it has no death, it's ever existing. It can't be cut, it can't be dried, it can't be blown away. But the bodies are all either buried over there, or I see they have some ashes, so cremation. But either way, the body will be finished. And whatever happiness was associated with that body will certainly be finished. So that's the nature of the material world. Everything will be over. As you said, chapala sukha, the happiness is flickering. But in the spiritual reality, happiness is a permanent feature. Now, it's a question. When Krishna has pastimes in the spiritual world, is all light? Well, first of all, for newer people who may be here, in the spiritual world, Krishna is the original source of everything, and he has activities. The source of everything, Krishna himself is identified as the source of everything. And he appears with form, with qualities, with activities, with associates, with everything that we have. But in perfection, and in eternity. We have forms, but our forms are temporary. We have qualities, but our qualities are temporary. We have friends, but our friends are temporary. But in relation to Krishna, the absolute, everything is eternally existing, everything is permanent, everything is real. So Krishna has pastimes, some of which he has during the day, and some he enjoys in the evening, at night. So then the question is, well, how can he have pastimes at night if everything is always bright in the spiritual world? How does that work? And then the answer is that Krishna, by his energies, arranges. Like if I were, say, a rich man, a very rich man, and I was living in Sweden in the summer, I could still arrange for there to be some dark place where we could have an evening program, even though the sun goes down there like at 3 in the morning and rises at 3:30 or something like that. It's just, it's always light during the summer. But if I'm rich, I could arrange, like a forest scene with darkness and all of that, as we do in a play. You may be watching the play in the middle of the day, but the staging is such that it becomes midnight, or vice versa. It's in the middle of the night, but it becomes noon. So Krishna's energies, Krishna's spiritual energies automatically arrange these things. If it's supposed to be night, the energies are doing it. Krishna himself doesn't even have to do it. Just as the actor or the producer doesn't have to do all the stage effects. There are various parties who see to that. So Krishna's spiritual energy arranges that, okay, now this is going to be a night pastime. So let's have some darkness and maybe a moon to beautify the sky. That's how it works. Or Tina says, or could it possibly be that when Krishna has evening night pastimes, it is still light, and evening or night is just the relative time in which he has them? No, it's night, because there are pastimes that are more suitable for not just a time on the clock that's night, but with all the features that make night interesting. Lovers don't usually, meet for their most intimate pastimes at lunchtime. It's in the evening, and the sun goes down, and the moon is shining, and there's this evening atmosphere. That's when they meet. Not just they look at their watch and say, oh, okay, it's like it's night, but there's a whole setting suitable for that kind of enjoyment. So in the spiritual world, the setting is there. The setting is there, but it doesn't require this kind of sun in the middle of a universe with a mechanical arrangement like you see in a planetarium. It's a spiritual manifestation. I think that answers that question. Yeah, Tulsi Priya says some activities are just more fun when it's dark out. Yeah, that's the idea. Bettina, so yes.
Don't the gopis dress in certain ways depending on if there's a full moon or if it's a dark moon? Like they'll dress, I think, in light colored clothing or in white when there's a full moon because it's more. I've heard, I can't remember. They've done plays on them in Alachua.
Yeah, there's different kinds of dress according to the occasion. Yes. So like on planet Earth, evening or night happens every day in the spiritual world. Well, for that, my suggestion is that you go there. Then you'll find out, otherwise the details can go on and on. You go there, you'll like it. Is that hand still up, Tulsi Priya, or is that a new hand? Okay. Tina, so, okay. Okay, good.
Question.
Yes,
I know that, thank you for being here.
thank you.
Greatness. I know that Thich Khan just passed away recently.
Who's that?
He's also a spiritual leader in.
The spiritual leader just passed away?
Yeah. So my mother figure sent me that, and I felt like I was expected to be somewhat in mourning, but I know there's always like a passing and a reincarnation, and so
Yeah.
question is, what would you say to someone, whether they believe in an afterlife or not, or actually more to the people that may have trouble with an afterlife thought, and because I find it hard to relate sometimes.
Well, this is a whole course, of course. What do we say to people who are mourning someone's death and who don't believe in an afterlife?
Yes.
What do we say to them? Well, it requires some background. Otherwise we're just patting them on the shoulder and saying they're.
Right.
But in Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter especially, Krishna gives, what should we say? Logical arguments for the of consciousness isn't created, so consciousness will not be destroyed. As we mentioned earlier, you can't cut it, you can't burn it, you can't blow it away, you can't drown it. It's unaffected by any material circumstances. So it's different from matter, different from the body. The body can be cut, burned, and so on. The body will be finished. But consciousness is simply not affected the same way. And Krishna gives another example, that at one time we had the bodies of children. Then we get, like you have a young man's body. And later you'll have an old man's body like mine. So the body is changing, or rather you're changing from body to body, but you're the same person. It's not that, I don't remember what happened to you in your childhood. You remember, right? Because you're the same person. I remember when I was climbing on rooftops or climbing up trees or, riding on my bike as a kid. You don't remember what I was doing then. Because I'm one person, you're another person. I'm one spark of consciousness, you're another spark of consciousness. But although I've changed from one body to another, from the childhood body now to the old man's body, I remember those things because I'm the same person. So Krishna gives the example or the argument that as we travel in this life from childhood to youth to old age, traveling through different bodies. So death is another change of body. Or he gives another argument that we're all unmanifest. You don't see us. You know, how old are you?
I'm turning 30.
Turning 30. So 31 years ago, you were unmanifest. Nobody saw you.
Correct.
Now you're manifest. And sometime later, again, you'll be unmanifest. But manifest and unmanifest are different from existing and not existing. Like now, there were some people in the room when I walked in, and I became manifest to them. And if they're still here when I walk out, I'll become unmanifest. But it doesn't mean that I didn't exist before I walked in, or that I won't exist after I walk out. I'm just manifest and unmanifest. My existence is still there, but I'm not visible. Now, the sun does the same thing. It's unmanifest now. Tomorrow morning, it'll be manifest again. Tomorrow night, again, unmanifest. But it's always existing. So, through these different arguments, Krishna presents to Arjuna, there was never a time when we didn't exist. He's speaking in the battlefield, he says, you and I, all these kings, never was there a time when we didn't exist. And we exist now. And in the future, the time will never come when we'll cease to exist. So the Bhagavad Gita
You're breaking up, Maharaj.
I'm breaking up, okay. Yeah, it's definitely. Okay, so we'll see if it's meant to enlighten us on these essential truths about the nature of consciousness or the soul, about its eternal existence. So with that background, one can begin to understand what's actually happening here. Otherwise, in ignorance, pardon the word, but in ignorance and darkness, in the absence of knowledge, we think that a person comes into existence and then ceases to exist, because we identify the person with the body. We conflate the body with the self. Although consciousness is always existing and the body is only temporarily existing, we think that the two are the same. But they're different by their nature. One is temporary, the other is permanent. So this misidentification is the basic principle of material illusion. We mistake the body for the self. And this gets sophisticated. So scientists, will trace the origin of consciousness in the precortical region of blah, 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 blah. They'll break it all down into various material processes which are supposedly responsible for consciousness, because they're under the same illusion that matter is everything, that the body is all there is, and when the body is finished, then everything is finished. So Krishna speaks to enlighten us about this, so that we can see the larger picture. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So the soul, like, it moves on to another body and stays as the soul. It can't be broken, right? You know that. The soul.
Yeah.
But like when people say that a person lives on in you, like in your, like, or a person's consciousness lives on in you, like.
A person's consciousness lives on in you, people say.
Like, you know, when people say like that person lives in you.
Yeah.
Who has passed. Is there any truth to that?
Or through his influence, through his presence within us. There's a certain kind of truth to that. That is to say, the a great architect, his work will live on after he's gone, or a great playwright, we're still reading Shakespeare so many years after his death. So in that way, they're living on. But it's their, what should we say, separated work product that's living on, even if that work product is something subtle and that has an emotional or effect on us.
Cut out, Maharaj.
I'm breaking up again, so it is.
And again.
You still.
I'm not getting anything right now.
Okay, I'll speak about being gone. I was really gone there. So.
You didn't go, but your visibility was
Hmm?
there. You didn't go, but your visibility became.
In my visibility, I became unmanifest. So the humorist Woody Allen quipped, I don't want to live on through my children. I want to live on by not dying. So the effects that we have on others it's not non-existent. We say, oh, my father's gone, my brother's gone. And Prabhupada said, why do you say gone? There, he's lying in the coffin right there in front of you. But gone means that the soul is gone. The soul has moved on to another place. And the body is lying there. So the influences that people, even what is that? That evil that men do live after them. The reputation that someone has for, the reputation of a Pol Pot or somebody that lives on also. But he's in hell somewhere. He's no longer ruling his former nation. Okay. Okay. Anything else there? Let's see if, I think I missed a comment or two earlier in the chat box. So let's see if I can. Saraswati says, everything in the material world is temporary and illusory. But the jivas, the living beings, become attached to a variety of relationships, like parental, friendship, and so on. And those relationships are meaningful if connected with Krishna. So in the spiritual world,
Cut out again.
terms in the Bhagavad Gita that
Hmm. Cut out again. Would it help if everyone turned off their cameras?
sorry for that again.
Yeah, that saves.
That's bad. Yeah, it might help. Yeah, like I suppose those who are on Zoom, you could try turning off your cameras. I think there's only one or two that are on, but you could turn them off. Then
Cut out again. Maybe turn your camera off, Maharaj, and it'll be just audio.
connection, we'll see how it works. Let me get the chat. So in the book, confront the conscious.
Maybe Gopal Radha knows
Okay.
something that he has.
Again, my apologies. Tomorrow we'll shift our understood individual sparks of consciousness. So even after liberation, our individuality. Natural, eternal identity, which is now covered by these designations or by these conditions of this body or that body.
You explain the subtle body and gross body?
Yes, subtle body and gross body. Gross body means the one you see. Ego, but there's a real ego, an eternal identity.
Can I connect to her question?
Hmm?
So she asked a question about somebody living on in sound. So what about how it says that the intelligence is no good for somebody who says the Vaishnav doesn't live on, lives on in sound.
Yes.
So what about that?
Yes. The different from, I don't want to live on through my children, or, the architect living on through his buildings. His instructions are connected with the absolute. And so those instructions themselves are absolute, permanently existing. So when we remember the spiritual master and his teachings, then we experience the presence of the spiritual master. It doesn't change the situation that he's moved. He's no longer present in this, among us in this world. He's gone elsewhere. But by the sound vibration, by the instruction, we're together.
I had a question.
Yeah, this was all, I was just making the point about individuality because I was trying to answer Saraswati's question. Are there individual relationships in the spiritual world other than our relationship with Krishna? And the answer is yes, because all of these individual living beings, the majority of the individual living beings So we hear about that in Bhagavatam and other Vedic literature. But the relationships are not relationships of sense gratification. In the second canto of described the residents of are traveling in airplanes with their wives, but it's not like the relationship he enjoys to gratify their senses, to enjoy physical pleasure together or something like that. They're there for spiritual service, and that spiritual service they're together. So the relationships are there, husband, wife, Nanda, Yashoda, there are so many. So all the relationships are there in the spiritual world, but those relationships are all connected with the supreme relationship with Krishna. There are a couple more comments here. Let's see. Krishna also says, Murari says, that if you think the person is created and dies, then be practical, while lament over unavoidable. Yeah, that's another thing that we say, right? We don't lament, oh, the sun is gone. We know the sun is, but even if you think that the sun, I think there's nothing more to life than chemicals, that life is just a chemical reaction, little biochemicals bubbling away. Well, if they stop bubbling away, so what? What's the big deal? Why are you lamenting over that? Now, Krishna says that in a disparaging way because he doesn't agree with that philosophy. But he's taking it as an extreme case. Even if you think that there's nothing more to life than matter, so if matter changes state, what do you care? Even if someone crossed the street against the red light and got not, so what? If it's just matter, if you think that matter is all we're made of, so matter. Tesla got totaled.
I'd cry.
You'd cry, yeah. It was because you identify falsely with the Tesla. You think, I've been totaled. You'd cry. But when we're situated in clear consciousness, we know, well, my Tesla got totaled, but I'm still here because I'm not that Tesla. In the same way, I'm not this body. All right. We've reached our 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. Time to prepare with everyone on the internet. Not at this Zoom address, but on the same address that we've been using, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday address, which is on my website, www.jayswami.info/itinerary. So we'll be there. And we'll switch locations so that we're in a technologically more congenial location, and we shouldn't be needlessly interrupted. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gurudev. Haribol.
Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you,
Hare
Guru
Krishna.
Maharaj.
Thank you. All goes proper.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jaya.